Okay, welcome. We're doing a bit of a deep dive today.
That's right.
We're looking at some source material, essentially training content for peace officers.
hmm
And it focuses on recent updates in federal law, specifically U.S. Supreme Court decisions.
Exactly. You can think of the Supreme Court and federal laws, too, as constantly drawing and sometimes redrawing the lines for lawful policing.
Right.
So our goal here really is to break down these updates, almost like we're explaining it simply, to someone just trying to get their head around these sometimes pretty complex legal areas.
And that clarity is so important, isn't it?
It really is.
Because these legal shifts, they directly shape, well, everything. How officers interact with the public, the boundaries of our rights.
Absolutely. And the source material, it points to several really key areas where the court's been active. Areas officers need to be completely up to date on.
Like what?
Things like use of force, the whole issue of qualified immunity, search and seizure under the Fourth Amendment, and also interrogations, Miranda rights.
Okay, let's maybe jump into those then. Starting with use of force and qualified immunity. The source makes it pretty clear these aren't like fixed rules. The court's always refining them.
Yeah, constantly. And what's really interesting is how the court looks at these cases, especially when qualified immunity pops up.
Explain that a bit more. Qualified immunity.
Okay, so put simply, it often protects government officials, police included, from lawsuits unless their actions violated a right that was already clearly established.
Meaning?
Past court decisions had already made it crystal clear that that specific type of conduct was unconstitutional.
Gotcha.
And for use of force itself, the court really digs into the specific facts the officer was facing right then in that moment.
What kind of facts?
Things like how serious was the crime they suspected? Did the person pose an immediate threat? Were they actively resisting arrest or trying to flee,
Right.
The training even notes that decisions can get really granular looking at specific tactics used, like certain holds or restraints.
Wow. So it's not just if force was justified, but the specifics of how it was used.
Yeah.
Down to the technique.
Precisely. And knowing that level of detail from past cases, well, that helps determine if a right was clearly established when something new happens.
Okay, that makes sense. Moving on then. The Fourth Amendment. Search and seizure. This feels like an area where there are just endless possibilities, endless legal questions.
Oh, it absolutely is. The source really stresses how often updates come out about warrantless searches and all the exceptions that allow them.
Exceptions like,
Well, like exigent circumstances. That's
Yeah.
basically when waiting to get a warrant just isn't practical. Maybe evidence could be destroyed or someone's in immediate danger. Or the automobile exception for cars and trucks. They generally have less Fourth Amendment protection because, well, they can be driven away.
right, mobility.
Mhm.
What about consent searches? That seems like it could be tricky.
It definitely can be. Things like the scope of the consent. What exactly did the person agree the officer could search? That gets argued about a lot in court.
I bet.
Plus, with technology, searching cell phones, getting digital data from companies, applying the Fourth Amendment there is a huge evolving area. The training covers how the court is trying to clarify those new boundaries.
Okay. And finally, interrogations and Miranda rights. Feels like everyone knows you have the right to remain silent, but there are still updates happening.
Oh, definitely. The core Miranda warnings are the foundation, sure, but cases keep refining the details.
Such as?
Well, the training mentions things like how exactly does someone have to say they want a lawyer or want to remain silent? How clearly do they need to invoke their rights? Or the different ways someone might waive their rights. And also just nailing down the legal definition of custody, like when is someone really not free to leave?
Yeah.
An interrogation, when are police actions actually designed to get an incriminating response? Those definitions matter a lot depending on the situation.
Right. So if we kind of pull all this together, the big takeaway from this training material in our chat seems to be that these Supreme Court decisions, interpreting the Constitution, federal laws, they have this constant, direct, and pretty detailed impact on crucial police work.
Exactly. From force to searches to questioning suspects.
And it highlights that point from the source material you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that case law changes fast. Really fast. Staying updated isn't just a good idea for officers, it's essential. It's absolutely crucial.
Which means understanding these shifting legal lines, it's important for everyone, really, not just law enforcement. It helps us all grasp, the framework of policing and our rights and responsibilities within it.
Precisely. Which leads to maybe a final thought for people to consider.
Go on.
Given how quickly these legal standards do change, how does that constant evolution challenge both the police and us, the public, to actually stay informed and adapt? It's a big ongoing task, isn't it?